obviously I've alluded to this a little bit, but like people now know that like we go way back and we've been through like some crazy shit. um uh but like since starting this podcast, I've realized that like I actually rarely get to talk with my friends in such like a narrow focus and hear about like their professional trajectories. I just feel like we get too sidetracked into whatever we want to talk about. We get into other, conversation like areas. But now I get to like kind of have a stranglehold on like the conversation. So like, how I want to hear like the professional journey of Nicole. Like, how did you get from studying bio and pre-med at Duquesne to being an owner and operator of small businesses?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I never thought ever did I ever think that I would own my own business, let alone a bar. Um, but after Duquesne, I ended up working for UPMC in a research lab. I did HIV prevention research. And from there, I got into sales. So I got into medical equipment sales from working in the lab, talking to the sales reps that used to come in through the hospital, trying to sell stuff. I just started making connections and got a sales gig and kind of bounced around in the sales industry, medical equipment sales industry for about 10 years. And that's where I was until I left to just be the bar owner, which happened. I quit my job the last day of 2019. So perfect timing for COVID to hit, because this whole time, the Goldmark opened in 2015. And that whole time, those 4 full years, I was working, and the club, I had like 4 jobs for
Oh,
4
wow.
years.
I
And it
definitely didn't
was,
know that.
yeah, and it was intense, and it was a lot of work, and it got to the point where I was super burnout. And we had a lot of talks about this, but the businesses were doing well enough that I could leave my sales job, which sounded like a great idea. But I always held on to it because I said, this is our safety net, like in case anything ever were to happen. That's what I always said. And then finally, one day I was like, you know what? I'm ready. Like, I'm going to quit, and I'm going to focus all my time and energy on our businesses. At the time, we had the club, and we were doing a lot of private events there as well, but bigger, some corporate events, some larger weddings. So I figured I would kind of like go that way and
Right.
really grow that portion of the business. And then I quit, and then COVID, 2 months later, COVID hit. So we got hit really hard with just, the timing of everything was not good over here in this household. But the whole bar even came about was through Nugget.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
for,
tell me
I guess
about
for
that.
anybody
Like,
that doesn't know, who's watching this, my husband is a DJ and he's DJ Nugget, also Adam, but I still call him Nugget. I like trying to call him Adam more because it's kind of weird when I talk to people that don't know
right.
about him to call my husband Nugget, but that's what he goes by. That's what most people know him as. My dad even calls him Nugget, which is hilarious. Like, that's how he was introduced to him. So, but we started dating, obviously, and then got more serious. But this was always his dream, was to own a bar someday. And he's been DJing for 20 years in Pittsburgh, countrywide, globally, and basically had a notebook and would make notes at all of his gigs when he worked for different owners, different bars, different establishments, made notes for like what worked, what didn't work, things that he saw that he really liked. And he came to me one day when, we were more serious, and he said, this is what I want to do. I want to open my own bar someday. And I, was 100% behind him. But then the more we started talking about it, and I saw how passionate he was about it, and I just knew that it could be a really, really awesome venture. I said, you know what? I have some money saved up. Like, I'm willing to invest in you, you know, and your idea. And that's kind of where it started. But then I just got so into it and just, I mean, I didn't think that I would be that into this idea. And anyway, so we looked into opening a bar together, and we are 50-50 owners. So
was there anything in the conversations that like really triggered your intuition to be like, yeah, let's do this? Like, was there a moment that you can remember where you were like, yeah, we have this figured out. Let's do it.
I wouldn't say like one specific moment, but he worked on a business plan for like months. He was just working on this business plan, and then he brought it to me and showed it to me, and it was amazing. I mean, it was very long, you know, very detailed, which is good, but some people, you know, when you're trying to get a loan, you don't really need to provide like all of this information that he had. But it was amazing. I mean, he thought out like all the different nights he wanted to have, the different DJs, how many people he thought would come in every night. And it's crazy because we recently looked back, we found the business plan when we were cleaning during quarantine, and it was kind of odd and like creepy how aligned it was with how the Goldmark turned out to the business plan that he wrote in 2014 before we even had a space. And
really?
as far as like
his like projections were like pretty
for
on
sales, yeah, for sales, for like the money it would bring in, like it was weird how on point it was. You know, and at that time, the Goldmark did not exist. The location did not exist. He just knew he had spent so many nights on the South Side DJing there. He actually did not want to be on the South Side. He really liked Lawrenceville. And now this was in 2013, 2014. So this was before Lawrenceville really kind of started to take off. It was like just starting.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody
had like a feeling that this was going to be the new spot. It just wasn't yet.
Yeah. I mean, there were some really cool businesses over there at the time, but it's nothing like it is now. If you drive down Butler now, there are so many businesses on Butler Street that have come after the Goldmark, which is like crazy to see. But we ended up opening it in 2015. But there's like a whole other story to that where we were looking at a different place. I don't know if did you ever remember the bar called Eclipse? It was on Butler Street.
Yeah.
That was going to be the Goldmark. And that was for sale. We went through it was probably like a 4-month process. Tons of, I don't even know. We ended up losing a decent amount of money in the deal because everything fell through. But it kind of was a blessing in disguise because I love our current location where we are now. I think it's just perfect for what we wanted. And the Goldmark building went for sale not too long after our first venture deal kind of fell through. And he was bummed. He was super bummed out. And he's like, I think I'm good for now. Like, maybe let's take some more time off. Like, I really don't want to get into looking at something else and losing more money. And I was like, you know what, like, let's just go look at it. Like, it can't hurt. Let's just see.
Right.
And it ended up, you know, we were in there, and it I don't know, a lot of people didn't really know what it was before. It was called Salud, and it was a Cuban restaurant before.
Right.
And it was only open for 2 years before we got in the space. But we walked in, and it's tiny, but it was like perfect. It was exactly like what we were looking for. But it had like wood paneling, and everything was painted pink. Like, it was like real like pink and like bamboo walls. And, you know, we had to do a lot of work in there, but it was amazing, and the deal went through, and yeah, but within that whole, I guess, to rewind, within that whole process of the business plan and all of that was when I said, like, I really want to be a part of this. Like, I want to be a working part of this. So, yeah. So
Nice.
And I bartend too.
Yeah. Well, I've definitely seen you do that.
Yeah.
What would you say, like, after acquiring the building, and obviously not, you know, COVID would be too easy of an answer. Like, what would you say was like your biggest struggle in the process of like having your own business?
Yeah. COVID doesn't count with this one. I don't know. Like, I mean, honestly, like, the amount of work, I think a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I want to own my own business, and it's great, but the amount of work that you put in is something that you know, like, forget even like 60-hour work weeks. I mean, you're working like 80 or 90-hour work weeks to make whatever you're making, to dump it back into the business. You know, minimal sleep. Like, it's a grind. It's a grind. But I love it though. Like, I miss it so much. It's just, I don't know. I don't know how to explain it, but really the Goldmark is great. We have there's 10 people that work at the Goldmark, and pretty much all of them are still the same from day one when we opened 5 years ago. So
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, the bartenders still the same, like, just great. Everybody that works there, they're great, and they're such a strong. They like truly love and care about the Goldmark, like, almost as much as we do. You know, like, they look out for the place, and they want it to succeed as much as, you know, anybody else. So they are huge assets to the Goldmark. Like, the Goldmark wouldn't be what it is without the people that we have that work there.
That's pretty incredible because, like, it's no secret that the service industry has so much turnover.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's wild the amount of, like, Facebook messages, emails, DMs that we get of people asking, like, if we're hiring bartenders. You know, are you hiring bartenders, barbacks, DJs? You know, but we just have, like, the staff and everybody. They're there, and I'm assuming they love it. You know, if they're not going anywhere, and so yeah, we don't have any room for anybody else right now. So.
Well, so while you were operating and like getting this up and running, what did you have a moment where you were like, holy shit, this is working?
During the process, we kept saying, holy shit, this better work. You know, holy shit, this better work, because through the whole construction phase, you know, there was a point where it's like, there's not that much more money to go around here. Like, you know, that one thing you wanted to do, we can't do that. We're going to have to wait till we open and actually make some money. So it definitely got to the point where, like, holy shit, you know, this better work. And we had our grand opening night. It was amazing. Like, couldn't have asked for anything more. And then that was Friday. And then the next night, the Saturday, it was like kind of dead. And we were like, oh my God. And we were all freaking out, like, secretly, you know, we're like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And then from there, it just kind of like took off, and it's been great.